Thank you for being here. I will now introduce Ambassador Pitteloud. Ambassador Jacques Pitteloud was born in Zurich, Switzerland. He earned a doctorate in law at the University of Zurich, with further education in security policy at Geneva University. Dr. Pitteloud has a distinguished career of public service in the military and the Swiss Foreign Service, which he joined in 1987. He served as Ambassador of Switzerland to Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Somalia, and as the Director for Resources of the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs, and currently serves as the Swiss Ambassador to the United States. A retired Lieutenant Colonel, General of Staff in the Swiss Armed Forces, Dr. Pitteloud also served as the Swiss government's first intelligence coordinator and Director for Arms Control, Disarmament, Security Policy, and Intelligence at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bern. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Pitteloud.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in Kenya, where I was posted, they have this beautiful way of starting a speech, which is to say, all protocols observed. And so you don't have to go through all the list, but I'm really, really impressed and actually very happy to see the list of guests we have tonight. Alexandria, thank you for the kind introduction, and additionally, I would like to address my sincere thanks to you, to Pierre de la Bianca, and to Marcellus Roll and the respective teams from the PIA and the Embassy for coordinating this event tonight. I have been fortunate to have served here in Washington, D.C. for the past 5 years, and my time here has been interesting, eventful, and sometimes even quite challenging, if you remember the past 5 years. That said, as with all ambassadors, when your posting draws to a close, it creates an organic moment to reflect on your time and on your possible accomplishments. And as a long-tenured diplomat, I too have begun that reflection, which I would like to share a few points tonight, but however, I promise to be very brief, which is usually what politicians say. Re-examining diplomacy and international affairs would be my first reflection. There are many definitions of diplomacy, and all have their merits, but to me, diplomacy and international affairs is the unique art and science of maintaining peaceful relationships between nations, groups, or individuals. Representatives of different groups, countries, and affiliations come together to discuss issues such as trade, conflict, at a time when trade is just a process of dying, trade, conflict, peace, also, innovation, the environment, technology, security, and even culture. Quite simple, isn't it? And yet, the role of diplomacy and international affairs has evolved over the years, as most things do, with a greater importance now than ever. Gone are the days of the typewriters, the fax machines. There are some people who don't even know what a fax machine was in this room. And we now have ChatGPT, social media, easier access to global transportation, with the result that our cultural interactions have grown exponentially. With this change and advancement, we also have the responsibility and task to progress and redesign the teams to do this ever important work. This world has become far too complex for modern organizations to deprive themselves of the best human resources for reasons of gender, race, or creed. And during my time as Director for Resources, and so the Director of Human Resources also for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I have consistently tried to bring the best teams together and in order to support the mission. However, this is not always easy. Deviation from the standard norm can be fairly challenging, as many people in this room will probably know. And it is, however, my sincere belief that one has to cast the largest and widest net to find and empower and employ the best leaders of today and tomorrow. For me, this includes having the greatest possible diversity of perspectives to best sustain our organization's ability to deal with an increasingly diverse world. Not for the sake of being politically correct, not just because it is the right thing to do, but because it makes sense. Full stop. As I have been in the US for the past 5 years, time after time I have seen the power of having a diversity of people, opinions, and thoughts. It is one of the many things I love about this country. Here at the Embassy and throughout my career, I have strived to bring the best minds into my organizations, not by creating requirements for diversity, but by encouraging the widest net to be cast, seeking applicants from all backgrounds to apply, and thus positioning the Embassy to be the best possible communication instrument here in the US. But let me be clear, this is not about what I've been doing. By seeking diversity, whether it be in thought, race, gender, religion, or creed, it does not only serve the organization, but it also serves as a driver of mobility for the individuals in the organization, professionally and personally, to engage and to support the global greater good. We were discussing with my wife Angelique today over lunch about how much we have changed in 25 years of intercultural marriage, and how, at least we hope, it has made us into better people. And I really do believe that, at least I hope that I'm a better person now than I was 20 years ago, because I have been, I don't know whether there were things to learn from the Swiss, but I've been learning so much on my side. So I really look forward to the rest of the program this evening and to hearing from our esteemed speakers and to connecting with you. And please keep fighting the good fight. Do not let anyone dismiss the value of your engagement. And remember the words of Frederick Douglass: those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. Thank you so much.
Ambassador, and again, I want to say thank you, because this is really a historic moment for BPIA to be here with both of you here today for many reasons. And sincerely, I want to thank you on behalf of both myself and our community with BPIA. Next, I will introduce our first keynote speaker, Ambassador Brian A. Nichols. Brian A. Nichols became Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs on September 15, 2021. Assistant Secretary Nichols previously served as the U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Zimbabwe from 2018 to 2021. In that role, he promoted democracy, rule of law, and human rights in Zimbabwe while managing multidimensional humanitarian crises brought on by corruption, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Previously, Assistant Secretary Nichols served as the U.S. Ambassador to Peru, where he pioneered strategies against illegal gold mining, illegal logging, and wildlife trafficking. He supported American trade and investment in Peru, increasing agricultural sales to over $1 billion annually, defending the rights of American investors, and building the hemisphere's largest private-public partnership with the U.S.-Peru Cacao Alliance. A native of Providence, Rhode Island, Assistant Secretary Nichols has earned 27 awards during his diplomatic career, including a Presidential Distinguished Service Award, 2 Presidential Meritorious Service Awards, and the Charles E. Cobb Jr. Award for Initiative and Success in Trade Development. Please join me in welcoming Assistant Secretary Brian Nichols.
It's a tremendous honor to be with you, to be with so many friends and colleagues, and I'm grateful to BPIA for inviting me to celebrate 35 years, and for your unwavering commitment to the inclusion of Black Americans and people of African descent in our nation's international affairs dialogue. This is a region that I lead our foreign affairs work in the Western Hemisphere that has a special relationship with the African diaspora. We have half a millennia of Africans arriving in our hemisphere, and the strength of our hemisphere lies in the diversity and the meeting of people and their perspectives. And one of the areas of focus that I've had in the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs has been advancing diversity, inclusion, racial equity, and promoting human rights. The issues that we deal with in our hemisphere, the challenges we face, whether they're economic, social, political, or environmental, place an especially heavy burden on marginalized communities. Among those, indigenous, LGBT communities, other minorities, but particularly people of African descent. There's a deep history of discrimination and exclusion that all of those communities that I mentioned have to address. But understanding that, and understanding that lifting all of these communities will help the nations of our hemisphere be more prosperous, more stable, more equitable, more democratic. That is a key reason why we're focused on promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion as a foreign policy goal, not to be separated from the work that we're doing, but to be woven into it and integrated into those efforts. And we as a nation that brings this diversity, and looking around the room at this group, bringing all of the skills that the American people have together to support our foreign affairs efforts, makes us more competitive, more powerful, and advancing racial and ethnic equity is not just the right thing to do, it is, but it makes us a stronger partner for our allies around the hemisphere, and it secures greater security, peace, and prosperity for our region. In the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, the State Department, the Biden administration, we're advancing these goals through bilateral action plans on racial and ethnic equality with Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Costa Rica, a trilateral partnership on equity and racial justice with our North American partners, Canada and Mexico, a memorandum of intent on diversity, equity, and inclusion with Argentina signed just last month, and through regional and global initiatives, including the UN International Decade for People of African Descent. I want to say a few words also about the United States' commitment to building the Western Hemisphere as a stronghold for democracy, because it dovetails with our efforts to advance racial equity and to promote human rights. As a matter of policy, we seek common cause with governments elected through free and fair elections and that are committed to democratic governance. Unlike our strategic competitors, China, Russia, we view civil society and free media as indispensable, especially as support for democracy has receded over the last decade in key parts of the world, including in our own hemisphere. But we do that from a knowledge that we too have faced challenges to our democracy in the United States. We do that knowing that we are not speaking as if we deliver some truth from on high, but as partners working together to defend democracy for the benefit of all of our people. Our efforts to defend democracy achieved a very significant outcome in Guatemala when President Bernardo Arevalo took office in January. The Guatemalan people chose him in a free and fair election, but corrupt actors repeatedly sought to subvert his candidacy and inauguration. The United States government responded by applying diplomatic pressure at the highest levels. I traveled twice to Guatemala to personally convey U.S. support for the Guatemalan people, but this took a whole of government effort. Senior U.S. officials persistently engaged the outgoing government as well as stakeholders across the full political spectrum to demand respect for the will of voters. President Arevalo's success demonstrates that when the international community uplifts citizen voices, particularly in the case of Guatemala, its indigenous communities which fought hard to defend the hard-won victory at the ballot boxes, it shows we can defend democracy. And while people rightly think frequently of the indigenous communities in Guatemala when they think of that country, it also has a very important African diaspora, which also fought to defend democracy. When we look at the broad hemispheric consensus in favor of democracy and the efforts to defend democracy, we have to recognize that countries like Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba are outliers and have not upheld our region's commitment to democracy. When we think about our own work as diplomats in our region, we have to make sure that our embassies are demonstrating the diversity of the countries to which we are accredited. Ambassador Pitteloud, I congratulate you on your efforts and your comments in that regard. Too often, particularly a generation ago, going into one of our embassies, the most likely experience you would have is to find the children of the elites of the leafy suburbs of the capital working in the embassy and not reflecting the diversity of the nation as a whole. One of the priorities that I've had since I've been able to enter into leadership positions is to make sure that we're recruiting a diverse cadre of local staff to work and support our efforts. And that has paid rich dividends in all the countries that I have served. Right now, our hemisphere faces many challenges. Let me talk about one of them, which is to give the people of Haiti the opportunity to enjoy democracy, security, and an opportunity for a more prosperous future, laying the groundwork for democratic elections, and liberating them from the noose of gang violence, particularly around the capital region. Just late last month, we saw 2 American missionaries murdered in Haiti, and they received a great deal of attention, but hundreds of Haitians have faced violent deaths there because of the situation there, and that's why the United States has worked tirelessly to promote the deployment of a multinational security support mission in Haiti. And we commend Kenya's willingness to lead this mission, and our Caribbean partners, Jamaica, Bahamas, Guyana, St. Lucia, others, commitment to join that mission and to assist in that effort. And we look for partners around the region to provide their support as well. I'm not sure if I can mention him because he hasn't been introduced yet, but I want to point out that my colleague Jon Finer is here, and he has been driving that effort across the interagency, and it has been transformational. And if you think you can be lazy around Jon Finer, you're deeply mistaken. But he's doing it for an incredibly good purpose, and I really thank you. And can I just clap for you? It is hard work, but he will have his chance to make his right of reply soon.
My rebuttal.
As professionals in international affairs, we all have a calling to help our fellow people around the world, to engage with nations, with societies, and bring each other together. All of the things that we pick up along the way make us richer, enrich our society, and help us bring greater prosperity for our nations, and certainly for me, for the American people. This has been an incredible ride over the last 35 years that I've been in the Foreign Service. There is so much work that we have accomplished. I'm deeply proud of that. But there is so much work to be done. And looking around the room, particularly at those who are closer to the beginning of their careers than I am. I won't say I'm at close to the end, but you're close to the beginning. And I want you to know that the commitment, the hard work, the focus that all of you show will pay dividends. I can't think of a life better spent than in service to your nation and to the global community. And what you are doing matters. You will make a difference for the better in this world. We're at a pivotal moment in our nation, and in our society, and globally. And the work that all of you are doing is making that a better world. The outcome is not certain, it's not sealed, but the work that each of you is doing is making a transformational change for the better in the world. And the role of Black professionals in international affairs is vital to that process. And I thank you so much for the 35 years that you've put in, like me. And I expect, unlike me, you'll have at least 35 more years of incredible impact. Thank you all so much.
Administration in 2009 as a White House Fellow, leading him to eventually serve as Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton's Chief of Staff and Director of Policy Planning. Finer was initially assigned to the Office of the White House Chief of Staff for John Kerry and the National Security Council staff. His experience in the White House culminated in his appointment as Special Advisor for the Middle East and North Africa and Foreign Policy Speechwriter for then Vice President Joseph R. Biden. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Finer.
Thanks very much, Alexandria, and thanks, Ambassador, for hosting us. This is genuinely, I think people always say this when they speak, but I truly mean it, a real honor to be here with this group in particular. And to not be too parochial about it, I'm particularly honored to be here with so many members of our National Security Council staff who are out there. I won't go through all the names to avoid embarrassing people, as I was just embarrassed. But I am really proud to be here with you all. And I also want to make a special note that I'm here with also several colleagues who I sit with week in, week out, wrestling some of the hardest issues we face at the deputies table. Including Brian, who just spoke, and who, more than anybody else, if Haiti is going to have a better future than it has today, it's going to be due to the efforts of Brian and his team. But also Stacey, and I think I saw Bonnie somewhere around here. Oh, there you are. Bonnie Jenkins, and probably others, such a packed room, I'm not sure. But truly great to be here with colleagues who share that table and that responsibility with me. I want to acknowledge, by the way, just at the outset, that we are not in the good news business in international affairs. We don't often sit around discussing how well things are going in different parts of the world. We feel like those places will take care of themselves. We spend a lot of time working on problems, and that can weigh on people. And I think this is a particularly challenging moment to be doing this work. We have two major global crises that we're wrestling with in Ukraine and in Gaza, and I will just say, on a personal level, and I think this probably goes for everybody, though I won't speak for all of you, that the Gaza conflict in particular is one that I think people have intense feelings about, communities that we are part of, all of us probably have intense feelings about, and the fact that we serve in government means that we are often the repository of those feelings from people outside who want to express them, and that can be a lot for anybody. And whether or not you're working on that issue day in, day out, I suspect you feel as I do that it is a challenging moment to be working in government, and I really respect and admire everybody for persevering and working through it. My role is in particular focused on convening the deputies meetings that I just described. And one of the things that I've learned, I think most indelibly over the last few years, is that when you are convening, your main responsibility is to make sure that the right people are around the table with the right expertise and, frankly, the right diversity of voices and views so that you get the right answers for the country. And it has never been clearer to me, after doing this work now for 3+ years, that it's critically important to have a diversity of voices in order to make sure that we are generating better policy, better outcomes for the country, frankly, safety, security for us, and all the people that we care about. And that we have a real responsibility, we the conveners, all of us, to make sure that the right voices are in the room and being heard. So how do we do that? At the White House, and it's a particular priority for the President, we started the administration by promulgating something that's called National Security Memorandum 3. It's a very creative name for the third National Security Memorandum that the President put out at the beginning of the administration, and it is focused entirely on revitalizing and diversifying our national security workforce. I, along with colleagues in particular from the Office of Management and Budget and the Presidential Personnel Office and OPM, convene these meetings, and it is a whole of government effort to make sure that, frankly, our national security workforce reflects the diversity of views, diversity of backgrounds that exists in the country. It has been a truly intensive effort. We have gotten a lot accomplished. We have a lot more work to do. But I do want to say that I am proud of the fact that just the very third piece of paper that the President put out on the national security issues in his name at the beginning of this administration was focused on making sure that we do what is required to make sure that we have the best workforce that we can. We also need to just do better at making sure that we are having these kinds of conversations and recruiting people from places that frankly have had too little access to this work and to these rooms that we're in. And I'm proud of the fact, and I think Dilpreet, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff at the NSC, is here. She and others who are involved in recruiting for our organization have been doing outreach. We brought in all the presidents of HBCUs and have sent people out to the field to do a much more intensive recruitment effort in places that have not, as often as they should have been visited by people to try to bring people into this workforce. That's another important aspect of trying to get this right. Candidly, we have made progress. We need to do a lot better. When you look around the table in our policy meetings, you don't always see the sort of diversity, the sort of backgrounds that you think would best reflect the diversity of the country. Better, I think, overall, including with Black Americans, where in particular I think we have shown too much of a deficit. But I do want to tell you that the presence of people in these conversations, the presence of people with backgrounds frankly different from mine, has enriched every single meeting that we have had. And whether it's on issues that Brian was describing related to our hemisphere, related to Africa, related to any topic that we discuss, there are people in our conversations today who would not have been present in these rooms, in these conversations 10, 15, 20 years ago. And we are all better off for that. The President is better served because of that. He gets better recommendations, he makes better decisions, makes the country safer and more secure. So I want to end just by reflecting where I began, which is incredible gratitude to be here, incredible gratitude for the work that BPIA has done now for 35 years. Work isn't done. We owe it to you to be supportive of it, to be invested in it, and we will continue to do that. So thank you.
Was sworn in as the Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence on August 4th, 2021. She currently serves as the 6th Senate-confirmed Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence. Possessing over 20 years of intelligence experience, Dr. Dixon has led the intelligence community at the highest ranks. Dr. Dixon joined ODNI after serving as the 8th Deputy Director of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency from 2019 through 2021, where she assisted the director both in leading the agency and managing the National System for Geospatial Intelligence. From 2018 to 2019, she was the 4th Director of the Intelligence Advanced Research Projects activity after serving as its Deputy Director from 2016 to 2018. Before joining IARPA, Dr. Dixon served as the Deputy Director of NGA's Research Directorate, where she oversaw geospatial intelligence research and development. She held additional leadership roles at NGA as the Chief of Congressional and Intergovernmental Affairs and Deputy Director of the Corporate Communications Office. She's had a long history. Prior to serving at NGA, Dr. Dixon was a staff member for the House Appointments Select Committee on Intelligence. She first started her intelligence career at the Central Intelligence Agency in 2003, where she was assigned to the National Reconnaissance Office Advanced Systems and Technology Directorate. As an accomplished leader, Dr. Dixon holds both a doctorate and master's degree in mechanical engineering from the Georgia Institute of Technology and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Stanford University. She was also a chemical engineer, postdoctoral fellow at the University of Minnesota. Dr. Dixon serves as a presidentially nominated member of the Board of Visitors to the U.S. Coast Guard Academy and is ODNI's liaison to Spelman College Center for Excellence for Minority Women in STEM. Dr. Dixon is here with us today, and I'm proud to introduce her to the podium. Thank you so much.
That always reminds me that I need to write a much shorter bio in the future. And it's such a pleasure to be here, Ambassador Pitteloud. Thank you so much for hosting this beautiful home of yours. And Alexandria, this is a wonderful event. Thank you very much for allowing me to be a part. So I think we can all agree that this is a wonderful place to be on a lovely June evening in Washington, D.C. as we mark 35 years since BPIA was created to increase the engagement of African Americans and Americans of African heritage in international affairs. This work is more important than ever, and the relationship between diplomacy and my world, intelligence, is more vital to our world and to our work than at any time in recent history. They are complementary. Both seek to inform American policy, and diplomats carry it out. I have found that many of the characteristics that make for a great diplomat or a great person in international affairs are also found in our best intelligence officers. They are articulate and creative. They are driven and persevere, even under pressure. They are committed to mission, to protecting and defending our country and our people, as well as the security interests of our allies. They understand the complex world in which we live and the challenges that we face. They know what makes America special. And although not yet a perfect union, they know this is an incredible land of opportunity. And this includes our diversity. Diversity takes and maximizes the advantage of the abilities of our nation and of the communities and groups of which we are a part. And when we embrace it, it reflects the strength and values that we cherish. It also helps us better understand the countries, the cultures, the customs, the trends all over the world. For the intelligence community, diversity is a mission imperative. It's for us to draw upon the smartest, most insightful, most capable and curious Americans so that together we can tackle even the most difficult issues that we face. People like yourselves. And while there are incredible opportunities in the diplomatic corps, in the private sector, there is a need and a place for individuals like you in my community. In the intelligence community, there are many who share your passion for international affairs. We need you and the skills that you bring to help us carry out our mission, to counter adversaries, to address transnational issues like climate change and its national security implications, biosecurity, migration, to address and deal with challenges like cyber threats and the use and adoption of emerging technologies. And yes, that was a recruiting pitch, in case you didn't know. At the same time, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of building the kind of relationships that BPIA has enabled that led us all to be here in this beautiful place, this lovely Friday evening, and to our gracious hosts, with whom we have very important both diplomatic and intelligence partnerships. Today we join together with our Swiss friends whose national defense, domestic values, and commitment to freedom and opportunity in so many ways reflects our own, whether in the air, in space, as a leader in diplomacy, or as an advocate for peace and prosperity here on Earth. I cannot think of a better place than here to celebrate those ties, along with BPIA's 35-year journey and the impact that you've brought, and the dividends that it has paid for public service and diplomacy. So congratulations for 35 years, and I look forward to seeing what everyone in this room continues to accomplish in the next 35.
Could our three founding chairs of our councils please join me? Kambez Abdul-Rahmi, Shanish Underwood, and Michael Sirwada. If you can join me for the next portion, which is our awarding portion. So if you'd like to join me up here on the stage. I saw three of you, and I saw your faces. It's a lot of people, so I know that. In any case, thank you. Let's give a round of applause to Michael Sirwada.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tyler. I'm a recent Howard University alumni, incoming Stanford International Policy Executive. Long-time BPIA member and 2024 Charles B. Rangel International Fellow. It is a pleasure to introduce Chidi Blyden as the recipient of the International Affairs Trailblazer Award. Chidi Blyden currently serves as the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Millennium Challenge Corporation, where she supports the CEO in the daily management of the agency and delivering on MCC's mission to reduce global policy through economic growth. Before joining MCC, Ms. Blyden served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for African Affairs, where she managed the Department of Defense's relationships with 53 African nations. She has held various roles, honing her policy, national security, and practitioner skills throughout her career in government, academia, and nonprofit sectors. Ms. Blyden is an expert and socio-cultural advisor on Africa's conflicts, security, and development issues. Her work has focused on the impact of culture in developing policy and community-centric approaches to security challenges in African nations. She was the first Africa director at the Center for Civilians in Conflict, where she led the design and implementation of culture-specific training for the Nigerian Armed Forces on civilian harm. Ladies and gentlemen, Chidi Blyden.
Step to the sides.
Thank you, Tyler. I'm gonna have to add to my bio that I'm also now a Pokemon trainer. My son's a certified me. Thank you, Ambassador Pitteloud, and to your lovely wife, and to the Swiss Embassy for hosting us this evening, and for welcoming us into your home for the celebration of 35 years of Uniting for Change in International Affairs. Ms. Maloney, President of BPIA, and the members of BPIA, thank you very much for organizing this event. And again, Tyler, thank you for the awesome introduction, and congratulations on your next steps. I am extremely humbled to receive this award from the Black professionals in international affairs. I've received many awards in my career, but awards like this, presented by an amazing group of next generation international affairs Black professionals, is very special. I've worked across 4 administrations in academia and Congress, at the Pentagon twice, at NGOs, nonprofits, and as a practitioner in the field. And one thing is for sure, across any of these spaces, it's not easy being a Black American woman in international affairs. I've been told you don't look American. I'm asked where I'm really from. My mom hates when I say I'm from Texas, but I am. I've been stopped going into luxury hotels, questioned as I've led delegations or meetings, I suspect in part because I don't look like what America's traditional foreign policy experts typically look like. I've experienced ageism, sexism, racism, and other isms I didn't even know I could be discriminated against, just for showing up as the person that I am. On the flip side, my culture, heritage, expertise, lived experience as a Black woman has allowed me access to enter spaces and speak with credibility and authority on certain issues, or develop multifaceted solutions that my peers of other backgrounds may not be able to contextualize or relate to. During a crisis that required an evacuation of hundreds of international citizens, I remember receiving a message from one of my counterparts, an ally, that racial profiling was occurring during the evacuation and Black Americans were being wrongfully scrutinized as to the validity of their passports and citizenship while trying to leave a country on the precipice of war. He later called and told me he had sent the report through multiple venues with little reaction or traction, but he knew that if he got it to me, I'd be sure to address it, and that I did. As hard as it has been to be a Black professional in international affairs, it is more detrimental to our policies, solutions, and reputation for us to not be in the room and be able to bring the strength of all of our experiences to bear. So I'll leave you with 3 things to think about. For the young Black professionals in the room, it is imperative that you bring you to work. In most cases, you will be the only one in the room. If you come trying to be anybody but yourself, you would have done a disservice to yourself and the role that you were uniquely designed to play in that scenario. Now it's up to you how much you need to bring every day. Get the job done. As you know, we come from a culture of excellence, so calibrate appropriately. The employers, the mentors, and the bosses in this room, create the space for the difference on your workforce. Normalize difference and the acceptance of different voices, solutions, and approaches to conducting business in your offices, particularly in international affairs. Create the type of environment where marginalized individuals can feel welcome and thrive. And for everyone else, it's already been said here, but I'll reiterate it just so that we make sure that we get a fine point on it. The strength of our global affairs, foreign policy, and humanity no matter what country you represent, is its diversity. We cannot have blind spots. Blind spots lead to errors and repeating mistakes of the past. So again, this award is very special because it means that I've been seen. And that ability to be seen with a modicum of respect to any person, not just Black, can make a world of difference. So thank you for this award.
One of our Madam Ambassador delegates, Madam Ambassador is our mentorship and exposure program, Ms. Abigail Tate, to come and introduce our awardee, our final awardee for the Private Sector Pioneer Award.
I'm so honored to be presenting Brittany Masalosalo, who is the Chief Public Policy Officer at HP Incorporated. The work that the Government Affairs team does is vital to HP, delivering value by proactively identifying, quantifying, and assessing geopolitical trends, influencing government policies, and coordinating HP's public policy position. Prior to joining HP, Brittany worked at 3M as the head of International Government Affairs, representing 3M's position before domestic and international trade institutions, the international diplomatic community, multilateral and bilateral institutions, and other international audiences. She also spent time working at the White House in the Office of the Vice President as a senior advisor for national security and foreign policy. Prior to working at the White House, Brittany worked for several years at the Pentagon in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. She has also spent time living in Belgium, working with NATO partners and allies. While serving in the U.S. Army, Brittany was deployed twice in Iraq and is a decorated veteran. Thank you for your service, and please join me in congratulating Brittany Masalosalo with the 2024 Private Sector Pioneer Award.
I will keep that, so thank you. I'll also say that I'm deeply, deeply humbled to be here. As you have heard, international affairs has been near and dear to my heart for a very, very long time, having spent the better part of 20 years working in government and now working in the private sector. I remember the very first conversation that I had with Alexandria, and I reached out to her and told her that I myself in HP wanted to get involved in Black professionals in international affairs because I felt that the international affairs aspect of the private sector is not always represented or understood. And a lot of professionals like yourselves, those that are coming into the organization, those who are looking to take their next step, don't always turn to the private sector as an option for them. But I think it's growing increasingly important. One of my dear friends, Jamie Missick, former CEO of the Kissinger Institute, recently wrote an article and it was titled, "Why Every Company Needs a Foreign Policy Agenda," hoping to encourage that dialogue. Not only am I deeply proud of having this role at HP, I'm doubly proud because I'm a Black woman. And few things fill me with joy more than when I get to enter the global arena, whether it's visiting Davos for the World Economic Forum and representing HP on that multilateral arena as a Black woman. But far too often, I'm the only one in the room. And so that's why I myself and HP are champions of Black professionals in international affairs, because I second everything that was said today, that it is critically important for our society, for our communities, for our world, that we embrace diversity, the multitude of benefits that it brings, and not just view it as a passive option, but a mandate. So with that, thank you, Alexandria. Thank you all.
Here, if I can have our founding chairs, if you would join me up here in a moment of solidarity. Thank you very much. They're like, I'm not supposed to be on stage this often. I'd also like to invite our Swiss counterpart who's been pivotal in this work, Pierre. I'd like for you to join us up here too as well. Please give him a round of applause. Go back in solidarity. Thank you, Pierre. Please come right up there next to Combez. Shanish, Combez, Pierre, Michael Serwada, thank you all so much for the piece that you all played in making today possible. It shows that we are capable to do and lead on the things that are important to us. And as the four individuals and all those who were here behind making today's historic celebration possible, the legacy and the futures of our communities depend on us working together. This is what the future of our world looks like. Building coalitions, making friends, keeping friends. BPIA remains steadfast in our mission of increasing the involvement and engagement of African Americans and those of African descent in international affairs by developing our leaders through our Colum Howe Leadership Institute, by reaching back through our Madam Ambassador program and our mentorship programs, by amplifying our voices and by expanding our community. We must continue to answer the clarion call that local DC educator and BPIA founder Barbara C. Patterson set forth 35 years ago. Shortly after I joined BPIA as an intern, almost 10 years ago, our founder, Dr. Patterson, passed away, and I was asked to speak at her memorial service for BPIA. The overwhelming feeling that came to me that day was one of immense gratitude for the roads that were paved before us, as well as the responsibility for the roads to be paved ahead of us. And I'm talking about all of us to carry this work forward. If I could only have one lasting legacy as BPI president, it would be to demonstrate to my community, we are capable. We do belong in these rooms. We don't have to wait for someone to give us permission to have impact on the things that are important to us. And most importantly, our voices matter in this world. We stand on the shoulders of giants. And today I believe that Barbara Patterson is looking down on all of us, saying, job well done. But let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. We must remain united around change in international affairs. Changing in how we look at some of these problems and challenges, changes in our attitude, our perspective, or our approach when we need to, changes in social norms and status quos that may be holding us back, or maybe even changing how we might do business. But ultimately, it's asking ourselves, how are we changing when we need to for the better? Because what is at stake? Our shared humanity is the fabric that binds us. And I want to thank you for being a part of BPIA's fabric here today. This is only the beginning. Thank you all again, Ambassador Pitteloud. Angela, thank you so much for the opportunity for us to celebrate this momentous occasion here alongside friends and colleagues. We invite you all to enjoy the celebration, enjoy, networking and connecting, but remember that we've got work to do. Thank you very much.